Hello, tech friends. Today, we're going to build something. That's why I've got this beautiful blue mat with a little hole in it. We're going to make well, it says on here, digital clock kit, which is going to involve some soldering and following some unusual instructions on the internet. Shouldn't be a problem. We've got the soldering iron on the go, nice and warm to warm my hands. We've got a bit of soldering solder, and it is lead free. Although I understand that lead stuff is better, but hey, if there's an opportunity to remove lead from your workflow, you should probably take it. And I've got some flux here to make the solder flow a little bit better. I've made a bunch of these kits before, all sorts of different things, some of which I've shown on this channel before, and they're a fun little project to get stuck into. Let's see, let's get all the components out. So that's our sort of, I think that might be our polarizing strip there. Oh, there's one of the number displays. And then we've got the printed circuit board there, which has been very helpfully labelled with every single one of the components on it, so it shouldn't be too difficult getting the right component in the right place. Ah, yeah, there we go. There's our other three numbers. I'll just pop that over there. Inside here, we've got a couple of integrated circuits. There's our a big one here, which sits along here, and then there's a smaller one here. And they both have the sockets so that you can remove them, which is very useful. Got a power lead there, USB of course, and then we've got a bunch of our components. Oh, and of course here's the case to put it all together. So quite a simple one really, compared to some of the other ones that I've built. But it's good to just keep your hand in really with some of these things. Okay, so component wise, we've got some resistors and they're labeled already, so I don't have to think too hard. 10k, and this one is 330 somethings. So those are quite easy to figure out. And then this is where young eyesight is very useful for some of these things. There's our power barrel. We've got a clip for the battery. Oh, so it's powered by USB and by battery? Oh, we can certainly try both. Then we've got something there that looks like a photosensitive diode. And then we've got some transistors. And we've got some capacitors, a couple of screws there. And a couple of clicky buttons, which, if I remember rightly, are a bit of a pain to solder into place. Right, well, let's have a look at these instructions. Now, these are pretty reasonable. I mean, it basically takes you through all the components and where they go, kind of exactly as they're labelled here. And it says for the numbers themselves, you need to place the third one up the other way, like this, so that these two dots then represent the two dots in between the numbers on the digital clock. Then it's got instructions as to how to set everything up. It keeps mentioning Nixie tubes all over this, but these certainly aren't. These are LEDs, I guess, the actual 7-segment displays. And so it's got instructions of how to do it all, wiring diagram, QR code, and a web page, which is where we can follow the actual instructions. And they've got a little video on here, up here, which we can play to watch the instructions, watch someone fill it out. But if we just follow the pictures down, we can follow the instructions. Now, I mean, some of this is in Chinese, but you know, how difficult could it be? So we can pop the instructions and the bags to one side, and we've got our component list. So I think, yeah, there was, not sure what that one is, but that feels like that one might be important. So let's just put all these to one side. Oh, that looks like a speaker, I think. And then there's the buttons. Let's just put them in slightly different places so they're easy to grab and find. I think that bit might be the timing crystal, is it? Is that what it's called? Well, you might be able to figure out that I don't know a lot about electronics, but I kind of know how to put things together. And then these capacitors, we'll have to have a very close look at those and make sure whether they're all the same or not. Otherwise, we'll come unstuck. So those are the rest of the screws. Those are the transistors. Transistors have got 3 legs. That's all I really know. Okay, right. This might take a little while, but you know, you're obviously free to fast forward through to a particular point in the video so you can see what it looks like when it's all complete. I think we better zoom in a little bit so we can take a closer look, and let's get cracking. Looking at the instructions, I think we're supposed to start with, oh look, that's useful, how to solder. A chisel tip on the end of the soldering iron. I don't think I've got one of those. Right, we start with the 330 ohm resistor. It says solder 330 ohms resistor, no positive and negative poles. They can go either way round, but it's nice to keep them neat. So let's get all of these in place before we actually solder them. And these ones, because they're all in a nice straight line, it's going to be easy to do them all together. Now we'll just paint a little bit of flux along here. These ones are these components normally a lot easier to solder than some other ones, which have got made of slightly different metal. Like these were built to be soldered into place. So let's give it a go. Now my soldering technique is, I think I would probably describe it as basic, and I'm sure lots of people will tell me that I'm doing this wrong. What I found is using the flux is a bit of a game changer, because that really just helps the flow of heat between the soldering iron, the solder, and the section you're trying to actually solder together. Let's just rotate that round to do the other side. You're generally supposed to heat the component and the hole together, and then you're supposed to push the solder in so you never actually really make contact with the soldering iron and the solder. But let's be honest, if anyone's doing that, then they're better at this than I am. Maybe this leads to cold solder joints and other mishaps. Well, we'll have to see at the end. If you're watching this video, though, it probably means that I was successful. Otherwise, I won't put the video out. Okay, so that's going to cool for a minute. And another tool that is extremely useful are these snippers, which have got the curved edge so that they're nice and flat where you're actually going to cut them. And we can get on and do that. That's your 330 ohms resistors. It says cut off some component pins before installing the next part. Oh, theirs looks neater than mine, obviously. Install a 10k resistor without positive and negative poles in positions R13 all the way down to R9. So there we go, 10k. Very easily labelled for us here. That's those resistors. What do we got next? Install the crystal and 22p ceramic capacitors without partitioning positive and negative. There's a bit of translation here to be done. I think it means that there isn't any difference when it says without partitioning positive and negative. Those ceramic capacitors won't need to be separated, won't need to have a certain polarity. I think it's probably the case with this as well. Well, that's what I'm going to go with anyway, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, does it? There we go. It's quite therapeutic to line everything up like perfectly. I mean, if this was your job, you'd be absolutely smashing through this and you probably wouldn't care too much about how it looks, but I feel like that's kind of part of it. Okay, right, now we've got to have a look at these capacitors and figure out what's what. Now, install the crystal in the 22PF. Oh, they've left a very useful picture of the 4 capacitors I've got. I've got 3 22s, and that looks like 104. And I think, yeah, they're kind of code names, really. I think, especially that 104 one. Let's just pop these in. Anywho. Snip, snip, snip. And that's the capacitors and the crystal done as well. Okay, and then we've got, there should be a space, 104, there it is, C1 104. So I'll put that 22 capacitor, the other one to one side. And we'll get 104 in there as well. Oh, that resistor I put around the other way compared to all the other ones. Well, no matter. Right, what's next? Right, we need to install what's called the battery buckle. And that sits on top here, it appears. Like that. I think this little knot right at the end there just sort of stabilizes it, keeps it away from the surface. And then there must be some wiring associated. Is that how that works? Yeah, oh yeah. So the top one doesn't do anything, but the bottom one, there's a wire coming off it, and then in the middle, the other side of the battery, wires go off that in various different places. Okay. What I'll do is just heat this up again and apply some pressure. There we go. That's it. I heard it click into place there. Okay, what's next? The IC holders. Install the IC holder and note that the position of the notch corresponds to the marked position on the circuit board. Let's do that right now. Okay, here's our integrated circuits. And then here are our holders. There's our little notch on the end, corresponds to the notch on the circuit board itself. Oh, it's labelled all of these as well. That's A, B, C, D, E, F. Not every single one. And that's the one. And I'm just going to hold this in place, just so we can at least get one in. So, where I've gone wrong with some of these before is trying to just solder them all in one go. That is not always the best thing to do, because these can essentially sit in lots of different places. They can sit away from the board if you haven't got it lined up quite right. And so I find it useful just to stick one in and then do the same at the other end in sort of a diagonal position. And then once you've got two in, you don't need the tape holding it in place then. And just got to make sure, because there's loads that I've done there, that they're not sort of knocked up against each other or joined. Fused a couple of connections when there shouldn't be fused. Okay, looks all right to me. Right, there we go. Those are all done. Look all right from here. And that's on there nice and securely. Okay, let's do number 2. On to the next bit. Right, now it wants us to, it says install the S8550 triodes. Triodes? That's a cool name. Let's get these. Are they all the same? 1, 2. I can barely move these things. 3 and 4. Right, gotta have a close look. S8550. Yes, indeed. I think that must be all of them because there's only 4 of them. S8550. I do need to get a magnifying glass. Oh, I should make one of those. That would be a cool video. I wonder if there's a kit available where you just have to make it as is. Right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 of these, and we just need to part these ever so slightly. Oh, there's one last one there. Leave no trace. Okay, that's our 4. What do they call them? Triodes. That's a cool name. The triodes. Right, install the touch switch as shown. Right, where are our switches? Here we go. And these go on here. Oh, those ones sort of snap quite nicely into place, actually. That should make it easy to solder them on, I would think. There we go. Beep, beep. Install the buzzer. The long feet are positive, corresponding to the positive position of the circuit board. The buzzer. What does it say here? Remove seal after washing. Okay. I don't know what that means. Okay, so we've got the longer leg there. It's positive. Positive's there. Pretty straightforward, that one. Right. That's the buzzer in place. And then install the power terminals. So I imagine this can run off a battery. Maybe the battery is to keep the time, right? It's probably that. Okay, JK1 it says, right. Ah, the central. You see what it tells me? Oh, and that snaps into place nicely too. Oh! Doing all right so far. Okay. Then we have a thermistor. That's what this one is. That's a funny old name, isn't it? I feel like it's a diode of some kind. Oh, although it did mention something in the instructions about temperature. If this does the temperature as well, that really will be a lovely bit of kit. Okay, now does that? No positive or negative poles. Okay, and install as shown. Fine. And then this one's definitely a photo sensitive diode, I think it's called. And if so when I cover it with my hand or it gets dark at night, then the light can change. It can dim it. It can just do something electronically, right? Which will probably be to dim the brightness, I would have thought. Okay, let's get these two on. Okay, check whether the component is installed correctly. Looks good to me. Right, check whether the solder joints are good, whether there is a short circuit, and whether there is leakage. Well, if I just wipe a little bit of this off, I think that's probably a fair shout. And for that, I'm just going to use a dirty toothbrush. Put a little drop of isopropyl alcohol. So that's going to evaporate. Now, what does it say next? Install the digital tube. The third tube should be installed upside down as the picture shows. Weld the digital tube. Now, these ones get welded on the other side. Oh, I better chop these off, actually. Ah, look, okay, so it's showing me there on the picture. Trying to line it up with the push buttons. That'll be position 3, like that there. Yeah. Okay. When I come to solder these, I want to make sure these things are really flush with it. And I don't think I'll need to There we go. I can push down quite firmly on that. I think I need to snip the ends off these bits. It says weld the digital tube. Okay, final stages for the soldering. Let's put it around this way. Just looking back at some of the ones I've done here and seeing whether they got enough solder on. Or look like I might not have made the joint properly. And then it's just a case of inserting the ICs themselves. Now, you might be able to see that they're not quite lined up, and that's because they need to be squished down just a bit, as it says in the instructions. Let's see what happens if we plug in. Oh, look at that. Well, for a start, it's green. And for a second start, the first one isn't lit up. So it's time to go over those connections and see whether or not they're actually all right. Well, let's just see, because actually maybe that one isn't turned on. Just looking at the instructions, it says to hold these for 5 seconds. Okay, so let's just do that before we do anything else. It says 7:59. Oh, no, it says 8 o'clock. Ah, maybe it is working on that last one. It's just the time is different. That was the alarm, I think, going off there. Okay, let's see. What do these different buttons do? Oh, well, look at that. We've got the temperature, 33 degrees C. I don't know if that colour's coming across, but that's green. It's green to my eyes. 805. Oh, and that says it's 31. Okay, I will tell you now, it's not 31 degrees in here, but it might be a little bit warm from the soldering. Right, so I wonder what that 2 means. Okay. Well, here we go. There we go. Now we can. Hey, that one does work. That's brilliant. Okay, so let me just set it to the right time, which is 18. Oh, that flashing isn't too annoying. I'm always over the moon when these things actually work. So 18:38, and then I guess that's the alarm. Oh, my cat's arrived just in time for the victory loop. Okay, right. So we've installed the components. Tells us about this. Display 7:59. 5 seconds later. Display 8. Reset it. Reset it is done after buzzer responds for a while. Set up time, alarm clock, and hourly chime. Set up hour. Press the function key as opposed to the plus key. Okay, right. The hour Nixie tube and the second pointer blinking. Okay, it's not a Nixie tube. Set the minute, we've done that, and the hour. Set the minute of the alarm clock. Check whether the alarm is turned on or not. Press the function key again. All digital display remains unchanged. Press plus key. If the 0.4 lights, it means the alarm clock is on. Okay, right, so if I just press that. Oh no, which one was it? There we go. There we go. There we go. Right, it's 8:20. Let's see. Oh, and look at that. If I hover my finger over the photosensitive diode there, I think that's what it's called, then the light dims, or at least it certainly did at first, and now it's not. Let's just peel these off. Yeah. Oh, I'm chuffed that this works. I have to say, I've done a few of these videos already, where I build something like this and it hasn't always worked, and so you've never seen the video. So it's really good that this one does actually work. Okay, so we'll obviously have to find a battery to store it, but I think that that's pretty cool. Right, let's unplug that, and now we need to mount it into the into the box. Now it does have a little shade on there, but I think I might just leave that off for now. See whether I like it without it. I kind of like the sort of raw display that we've got. It's quite a chunky, hefty bit of kit. Okay. And got to be a little bit careful. If screws going into plastic, I mean, that could potentially break quite easily, couldn't it? Okay, right, there we go. Lovely. Right, let's plug that back in. There we go. And of course it hasn't saved the time, but that doesn't really matter, does it? I think that's fine. That is, let's just hold that down for 5 seconds. There it is, 7:59, and then it ticks on over to 8 AM. Do you hear that? That's the alarm. Not too alarming, is it? I think that is adorable. So there you go. That's how you build something from start to finish. I'm pleased that worked. And yeah, why not have a go with something yourself? Something like this. Very nice little easy project. Smash it out in about an hour. Love it. Thanks for watching.